Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strict prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. This is WSTU 1400.
1450.
Oh, excuse me, 1450.
Yeah. If they dial in 1400, they might miss us.
All right.
Yes.
So 1450,
yes.
to be clear.
Yes.
Martin County's Heritage Station. Hello.
Hello. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
And who is with you today?
We have John in the house and Mr. Frank.
Yes. Very good.
Who are you?
Well done.
I am Jamie. Sorry. I am your host today.
Yes. Very good. Well, you got the big seat.
Yes,
So,
sir. This is my first time. Very excited.
Very good. Very good.
So, what do we got today?
Today's a big day in history.
Oh, yes. Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, I'm sure that's what everybody's talking about, even though we are not part of the royal kingdom.
It's very interesting how
we are still affected by it. Yes.
No, like everybody in my class, it was like probably like a minute or two after like the BBC posted it. Somebody got like a random text, and then the entire IB senior class, apparently every single class started like flipping out like, oh my God, the Queen's dead.
Yeah.
And then even in the next period class, it was like, it's insane. But
something different to talk about, I suppose. But she was an interesting person and very strong personality. She was, more about family and giving back and dedication to your country. And she was pretty strong-willed about those issues. And I think very,
good woman.
Yes. And I think commendably speaking, she did a pretty fine job. A little bit of perspective. So for most of us alive today, most people don't know anybody else other than Queen Elizabeth. She's sat on the throne for 70 years.
The longest
reigning.
Reigning, there you go. Yeah.
And what else? She took the throne when she was 25. And who was president of the United States at the time, John?
Truman.
And
What?
yes,
Oh
Truman.
my gosh.
Yes, Harry S. Truman was president at the time, and who was in charge of the Soviet Union at the time was Joseph Stalin. So where we've gone from, she's seen a lot of history and was a big part of some of the major decisions made throughout the 20th century. So really pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing hearing that in perspective, though, because like recently you can only think of like recent events and whatnot, but like when you put into perspective that she's pretty much been alive like 70 years, we think about like all those things like, oh, that's probably like a century ago. It's like it's entirely distant from the younger generation. But
right. And her marriage lasted 73 years.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So longevity in all things for the Queen of England. And we wish her well in her passing and her family well and yeah. So
now Charles
is now King Charles. So it happens immediately, as far as the authority of the ruling family, right? But there's a 12-day process of this whole funerary process. And during that process, he will officially be crowned king.
Okay.
So there'll be a ceremonial thing, but I think they want to go through the whole grieving and funeral
especially because
thing
of her
for the
time.
There's
queen.
like a 10-day grieving period as well.
Yeah. So you won't get a whole lot of news out of England for the next 10 or 12 days as far other than conversation about the Queen, her funeral arrangements and things of that sort. But as far as, a lot of the infighting about Boris Johnson leaving and and then the new prime minister taking the reins. There was already some sniping going on. She had only been on the job 2 days, right?
Right.
And already there's stuff going on. And I think a lot of that will get set aside politically, and so they'll get back after it after all the pomp and circumstance is over.
A lot of stuff happened. Can you imagine your second day or
Right.
third day?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Right. Yeah. So poor the new prime minister. A little bit of crackling in the ears.
Yeah.
And there's
Wow.
there's the clap of thunder to go with that. So there you go.
All right.
So So what do we got going on?
Okay, I guess I will start off. So I was reading about this kind of this communication between chimps in Uganda, very specific kind of investigation, but there are these scientists who went down to Uganda and recorded how chimps communicated. So basically, like they bang on roots of trees. So very
So vibrations.
yes, vibrations and like
Mm,
just like the intensity of the bang just lets other chimps know that
there's another
like
one. Yeah.
lets the chimps know that like who's there, what they want them to do, and just it kind of gives us a background of what we of humans could possibly done. And
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
just
they're one of our closest cousins
mhm,
in the tree of, the animal kingdom,
the
right?
evolution.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
mhm.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like elephants in that aspect, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
elephants,
yeah.
they do some amazing things too, right?
Mhm.
And they're very protective too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Extremely so.
And so so a lot of the signals are kind of similar to humans where the chimps would like, I don't know, like put out their arm, can say, okay, grab my arm and like, let's go
Hmm.
or whatever. Just kind of non-verbal speech or communication,
Right.
but just kind of similar to humans as what we would do if we
Reach
didn't
your
have-
arm out, say, oh, that which means
yeah,
grab
like,
my arm. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
using hand motions and
Yeah.
so
Not like Titanic. Okay, sorry.
Well, all right. Well, that's fascinating
It is
stuff.
fascinating.
So how long did they conduct the study? Did they say?
I
I was just curious. I mean, if it was like months or years, or how long do they study them in the wild? Because basically they're watching them in the wild without interacting with them, so they can get a
Mhm.
genuine flavor of how the animals are behaving, right? It's a behavioral science study.
Well, actually, the study has been going on since 2014, and I don't really know the entire time range. However,
Right,
in
right.
2014 there was there was some other kind of news that got out about their emotions and stuff like that. So it's been being studied for a while
Right.
because
right.
our closest relatives again can let us know more about humans and stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
And how about that gorilla who I guess she passed away about a year or so back? There were a few, but there was this gorilla that they taught sign language to.
Yes,
And I can't think, Lucy, maybe, I forget her name, but she had a personable name, and she knew her name, and then she would sign with people, and it's pretty amazing.
that reminded me
She
of
she would express her feelings about things.
that reminds me of Godzilla and
What?
Godzilla.
remember in the Millie Bobby Brown movie, she was in that, and Godzilla versus, or maybe it wasn't Godzilla, but it was definitely a
It's a sci-fi movie.
I don't know why I'm blanking right now,
Sorry.
but
Yeah.
it was it Millie Bobby Brown? I think it was. Yes, it was definitely her. And they did experiments, or they didn't do experiments, but they communicated with chimps and a giant, essentially gorilla
Mhm.
through hand motions and stuff. So
King
that reminded me of
Kong?
that. Probably King Kong.
King Kong, yeah.
They had movies together. King
Yeah.
Kong and Godzilla.
Like
so.
Skull
Sure.
Island or something? Not Skull Island. Be before that.
Movie trivia.
Yeah.
Movie
Okay.
trivia indeed.
All right, indeed. All right.
Yeah.
Well, subject change. So apparently, going into this one of the news items, I guess they've been talking about over the past little while. There's some Chinese fentanyl, which looks like candy. It has it's very colorful. Comes in all the popular candy colors. Yeah,
That's concerning.
right. So
Whoa.
that's making its debut in the area. And there was also they've also packaged up this fentanyl to look like sidewalk chalk, colored chalk. So that,
just to disguise it, or
right, so that if you put a package of chalk in the mail or shipping containers, just
will be
chalk.
suspected.
Right.
I mean, I've seen that done in media before. I'm just surprised it's only taken until now for it to like actually become a thing.
Right.
Yeah, you've seen
Yeah.
movies and stuff like that they just disguise it, or something like that.
Right. But it's
Wow.
No, it's a real thing.
pretty interesting. So what are your thoughts about that? I mean, that's got, it's the largest cause of death amongst people today is overdoses on fentanyl. I mean, all socioeconomic age groups, everybody's affected.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. I don't.
So, I mean, I know you guys would not be inclined to want to, this looks like fun. Let me try this.
No.
So, but there's always a peer pressure. Somebody's, this is fine,
Yeah, and
Right.
I'm always been taught to not take any drinks from anyone because get your own because it might be contaminated with stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah, you don't want splashback anyways. Right.
or someone's like,
Right.
oh, there's a fresh drink. Here you go. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that is extremely concerning. And is that being radiated amongst, or is it only in China? Where is that?
Well, it's everywhere, but no, it's shipped from China. The stuff is apparently produced
made in China.
there, and so along with illegal drugs, China is a big pharmaceutical production facility. I mean, legitimate pharmaceuticals come out of China, so this is problematic. How the stuff could get intermingled.
Just when they're creating more laws and stuff, just how to kind of shoo away from prescription drugs and just people getting overdosed. People always find a way.
Yes.
People always
Mr.
find
Frank,
a way.
you've probably seen more of this than me. I'm not really aware of how drugs and whatnot transpire and whatnot. Yeah,
Really,
okay.
John?
Really, yeah. Me being a high school kid, yeah. Why wouldn't I know? Okay, but in all seriousness, how do you see them? First they come from China, then that's kind of the blanket statement. But how do drugs actually seep into systems?
How do they get?
Because I've heard it talk about, but it's kind of there's this just random drug dealer that's drugging dealing them out, but they get it from someone else, and then and there's not really a connected.
There's a networking program, and and there's networking in all illegal and illicit things, and some of them are cross connected.
Right.
So if you are involved in illegal activity with respect to selling people,
Okay.
right? That would create a network, and then somebody that's in the drug business would they would happenstancely find these other people, make this connection. They go, how would you like to have your people that are in the sex trafficking business carry these drugs for me, and then have somebody meet them on the other side of wherever it is they're traveling and collect them and kind of network that. It's all about networking.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it's very sophisticated as far as how that works. And the originating people are distanced enough to there's
it's the mafia,
secondary, tertiary. Yeah, it all is. It's multi-level marketing is what it is. And it's not good, and it's pretty scary.
A lot of money in that business, though.
But that's it. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. Exactly.
And it's not unusual for people to deliberately put drugs in an area to draw the drug enforcement agencies to that area and deliberately cause them to congregate into specific areas so that they can do an end round with the real drugs that they want to carry.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they'll sometimes rat on themselves deliberately or hang somebody that's like they not too sure about. They'll
Off them.
they'll give them, well, better yet, they'll give them the job and then turn them in.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they get rid of them, they get rid of the drugs that they're involved in. In the meantime, they're actually running their own game. So it's
Risky,
very
yeah.
nefarious.
Finicky.
It's
Okay.
just terrible. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, your life expectancy in that line of work is extremely short.
Extremely short.
So yeah, not recommended career move. Okay.
Okay, if I could steal this
Sure.
for a little bit of a
Go
moment.
ahead.
So I found something pretty interesting. This was within like the last 24 hours.
Mhm.
So essentially, it was from the Kyoto University of Japan. And what they were doing, they were using, okay, stay with me. I didn't know any of this beforehand. This is like apparently like particle physicist stuff. It's called fermions, which are essentially things that make up like pretty much electrons and like atoms in general. And they use ytterbium, the
Okay.
atomic the 70th atomic element. Jeez, that's a mouthful to say. And what they did was they cooled it to essentially within a billionth of degree of absolute zero. So it's, and then for perspective, wow, I don't think this is space, but yeah,
Well, it's science.
it's science.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in perspective, like the coldest parts of the universe that we know are about like 1 degree like below zero. So in perspective, we got like a billionth of that. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Okay.
interesting find. And at that level, pretty much every atomic movement stops. So nothing's moving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
so we
amazing
have
though.
wow. So we just pretty much brought what into space what we find here. Pretty
Yeah, it's
much.
pretty
kind
much
of.
like stopping time in a way, but
Oh,
ideas.
ideas. Okay.
Speaking of space, we should okay. Do you want to do the lead in? We'll do the lead in for the space report. And now John and Jamie with this week's space and news report.
Wow.
Okay.
So we have some interesting things I want to share with you guys. See what you think about that. Let's talk about Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
They have a hydrogen fuel leak problem. I don't know if you.
And then before that was cooling, and now they're ending for like September 23rd, and they need to get all of that fixed.
Right. So
Oh,
it has to do with the quick disconnect.
It's a new one this time around. Wow.
This is the
okay.
quick disconnect. Well, so anyways, but this is kind of interesting. This is an old article from 1990 written in the Chicago Trib. And I pulled it up because I just thought it was interesting because it is as pertinent today as it was in 1990. And they say ever since 1963, when liquid hydrogen was first used successfully in the Atlas rocket launch, the fuel has been good news and bad news for space engineers. The good news is the lowest molecular weight of any known substance, which makes it an ideal rocket fuel. The less a rocket and its fuel tank weigh, obviously, it's easier for the engines to propel it into space. So this all makes sense. But a liquid hydrogen is also extremely volatile, and it makes an extraordinarily powerful fuel. When it's ignited in an engine, the exhaust reaches a velocity in excess of 14,000 feet per second, giving the spacecraft a mighty thrust forward. So, but there are the downsides, and the downsides is this leak thing. So they've been plagued by these leak issues since 1963. Wow. What? But
Yeah.
you would think they would have gotten it pretty well under control
Yeah.
by now, right? but apparently not.
Exactly. 60 years has passed. I mean, a lot has changed. Some
Well,
things
I
don't
mean,
change.
some things and some things not so much,
Mhm.
apparently. But yeah, it's just fascinating to me when you think about it. What they did was, when it was on the launch pad, they were hoping to do. They had that 40-minute built-in delay
Mm-hmm.
on the. I think it was the first attempted launch,
It
right?
was.
And so what they did was they deliberately turned off all the cryo fuel and to let it warm up to the ambient temperature, and hoping that the seals within the quick disconnect would warm up and expand,
Mhm.
and then they'd be able to seat it properly and then continue the fueling. No go.
So much engineering in that. I watched a video about it, about
Right?
Formula One race cars.
Hmm.
One piece of one piece of the engine costs like $40,000 because it just has to be so engineered
Precise.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Yes, precise
Hmm.
on the numbers and like how much they account for expansion of the metal and just
Hmm.
so precise. It's absolutely it's like it's almost incomprehensible.
Hmm.
It's so like specific. So,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
And even then, they still have to deal with oils and whatnot. There's like certain like regulations with their gas requirement and whatnot, and you don't want to be like too high or too low, and then you need a bare minimum of gas. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Formula One for you.
There you go. Okay. So, anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you. I just thought that was just absolutely fascinating.
All right. Let's
Yes.
see what else we got. We have.
Yeah, you're right though. Before you go on, yes, September 23rd is the new scheduled launch, but it has a lot of things. I guess it
Mhm.
has to make a lot of milestones before that's a real good go date. This weekend will be interesting. We got 2 SpaceX launches for Starlink, I think, this weekend.
Didn't hear about that one.
Mhm.
So more satellites up in the air.
More satellites in the air.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're running, and these are already the obsolete ones, but the rocket that they're using is the only one that they have that they can use right now. Curiously, what they're trying to do, the new Starlink 2 design, they're trying to see if they can figure a way to kind of use a dumbed down version or smaller, because the Starlink 2, to
They're
explain,
gigantic.
is actually a far and away superior Starlink satellite over the original Starlink satellite. So they're saying, well, maybe we can borrow some of the Starlink 2 technology and shrink it down so we can fit it into the fairing of the current rocket that they're using, right? So so that's the idea, because it really is designed to go into the new bigger rocket.
Right. And about like that, I think like Apple unveiled a new phone. It's like the iPhone 14. I think they're
Mhm.
even pairing up with like Starlink and whatnot for like remote kind of like access and instead of like satellite data. So it's
Oh
interesting.
yeah, I heard about like how they're having that you've been in a crash or whatever it like connects to something like that connects to I'm thinking like a satellite or something to probably not that, but anyway, very developed phone. They said it's their strongest camera yet. I'm pretty sure. I mean that makes sense because it's the new one. But yeah, I saw a video ad on YouTube about it. Interesting.
Yeah. Pretty fun though. And then like SpaceX is expanding their like kind of like client base because I mean like I literally just saw them pair up with a cruise ship company for like that. I'm like pretty random, but
Well, yeah, cruise ships. I mean,
they're in the middle of nowhere.
they
They're in
absolutely-
international water.
They have to stay in good communication and satellite communication that gives them really good weather radar and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. It's
very useful.
That's going to be very, indeed. So so I think it's a good call by them.
Mhm.
And I guess T-Mobile paired up also with
Yeah.
SpaceX.
I mean, it's good for like people that like go hiking in the middle of nowhere and whatnot, and like in case you get in an accident,
Mhm.
like I don't know, the middle of like Ohio or something.
Middle
Just
of-
as an example,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah,
you
right.
can call someone. So
Yeah, very
Wow,
interesting.
I never knew that. T-Mobile. Good for them.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't hear about that.
Yeah, they actually paired up with SpaceX and in the Starlink system. There is a merger of companies that was attempted, and then they split already. So Boom Supersonic and Rolls-Royce were teaming up to produce a special engine for a supersonic airplane to replace the now defunct SST. We used to have supersonic space transport, super fast airplanes, right? They flew out of New York,
Yeah, I
Paris.
was thinking like you could even buy tickets on them as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh sure. Oh yeah. It was like twice the price, but then your trip time was cut in half
Yeah,
too.
you're saving time.
So, but not enough people, and they went through a bucket load of fuel. So they're looking to reconfigure the engines, make it more, engine efficient, and you got a lot of things you have to deal with when you go supersonic, right? You got to deal with actually heat on the vehicle, because when you got friction of the vehicle moving through air, that generates heat. So you need special metal alloys and just the skin of the aircraft. So and of course the engines, they have to be stout and produce a lot of power. So anyways, unfortunately, that concept idea has gone away, and who knows if that'll come back. So yeah, I think you were talking about scientists created the coldest matter in the universe in the lab. That's the idea. That's the thing you were talking about.
Pretty interesting.
I ran across that earlier. Yes.
Wonder what we'll do with that technology, though.
Well, I think just knowing about it,
I mean, like
graphene
application-wise.
it's like when they first discovered graphene a few years back, right? They said, this is cool. We don't have any idea what we can do with it, but it's cool. Well, now they're starting to come up with some ideas. So a little bit of time, and they kind of noodle through it. They go, well, it's kind of multi-dimensional. We can look at it from different ways, and graphene can be a big part of our future.
That's true, but I wonder how it's going to be like incorporated into technology and whatnot. Well, I mean, like you're essentially like stopping it from moving. So, well, I can't think of any applications in the moment for that, but like we'll see.
Yes,
we'll see.
Exactly. Somebody, trust me, somebody somewhere will do some what ifing, right?
Imagination.
Right? That's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Did you guys hear about the trains around here and how they're going to be like transporting people?
Yes.
That blows my mind. Like trains
Bright
in
Line?
Florida.
We've been talking about that now for 6 years. I think
it was like Obama or something. It
It
was
was
like
under the
federal.
Obama. Well, so yeah, we can talk
it-
about it when we come back.
All right, little
from our-
cliffhanger.
Yes. Let's do that. I want to change to. There we go. When we come back, we'll fill you in on Brightline, and we'll fill Jamie in on what's going on with them, and you as well, when we return. So stick with us.
And we're back. Hello. We left up on that cliffhanger about the train.
Yes.
Or, excuse me. Yeah, train.
Yes.
The bright line.
Yes. All right.
All right. So to back up, a few years ago, they widened the Panama Canal
Okay.
so that bigger shipping vessels, cargo vessels, can go through the Panama Canal, and that means more and bigger deliveries to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Port of Palm Beach, like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Easier transportation.
Mhm.
Or more
Get
transportation.
more stuff coming to this country from overseas.
Right.
Okay, on containers. Okay. Well, that stuff has to get from point A to point B somewhere. So the best way to move stuff around in country is rail.
Yeah.
Right. So the people that owned that, and of course, they widened, they improved the port of Palm Beach, and they improved the port of Miami quite a bit. And the people who own Port of Miami, Brightline, not Brightline, but they created Brightline. It's FEC owns a lot of that property, and the hotels and all that stuff.
FEC.
Florida East Coast Rail.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so they said, well, let's see if we can find a way to get the government to help us double track so we can move more freight. Well, the only way you can double track is to get the government's assistance is to do passenger rail.
Okay. So it's kind of like a little.
So passenger rail is never shared the same track at all, ever in the history, in our current history, going back many decades, with freight. It's been freight
Okay, makes sense.
or passenger. It's never been
Freight and passenger.
on the same track. Never been. So, so they say, oh yeah, well we're gonna. There was this special railroad rehabilitation loan. It was available to railroad companies that were interested in doing passenger rail. It's called a RIF loan, and which is really a grant. It's not really. They say it's a loan, but you don't have to pay it back, so it becomes a grant.
Okay.
In the tune of many millions of dollars. Okay. So they want to get their hands on that money, right? So how do you do that? Well, we're going to carry people. It's never been done before. Oh, we can do it. We have the technology. So there's a lot of communities that's balked about it, because in order for the train to make a successful run from Miami to Orlando, it's got to go pretty zippy, 75 thereabouts. So
to be like worth it,
well, the speed, it's got to be, yeah. I mean, the speed has to be there. If you can't do it if you do it in a lackadaisical manner, it's not an efficient people moving system. Okay. So they came up with this idea that they're going to do that. And the government would be inclined to grant such a thing, except for there was a big outcry because of the safety concerns for all the railroad crossings. We have 16 crossings just here in Martin County.
Wow, yeah, and the subways where actually people are familiar with, seeing actual railroads are like passing people or taking people from places. It's underground, so they didn't really have to worry about the railroad tracks.
Right. So all this stuff's above ground, and it all has to travel over road, and so it's just there's a lot of moving parts. Let's just say. The idea, from my perspective, is that they would get the go ahead and get some government money. And so they've done a few things. They got this Florida actually through I think it was Governor Scott, I believe, signed a bill that allowed for the terminal to be put in Orlando. So the state of Florida actually did some of that infrastructure for them.
I thought before then we got like an offer from the federal government to like do the entire train system or no? I recall that like 2-3 years ago.
That was the RIF loan, but it never got fully granted. So what they can do, a lot of people don't know this, but the railroad does all its own road work for all the railroad crossings, and then they build the municipalities.
Okay.
It's non-competitive bid. So the bids used to be about $60,000 per crossing on average. Some more, some less, depending upon what's involved. When you double track, more is involved. You get to bill more. So now, and guess what? We paid for that.
Yay.
Yay. So 16 crossings, instead of $60,000, you're paying $120,000 per crossing or more, depending upon the crossing.
So we're just paying through that. We're paying for that through our taxes, or just
no? We have municipalities pay for it, and we pay the taxes, and so it's a budgetary thing now. So it's either a budgetary shortfall, they have to take it out of other budgets, but whoever owns the road where the train is crossing is responsible to pay that bill. So if it's the county-owned road, city-owned road, state-owned road, whatever.
Okay, so that doesn't affect us too much, like paying taxes, does it?
Yeah,
or do we have to
of course. Somebody has to
true.
pay that tax.
So would that raise our taxes?
Well, ultimately, yes, sure.
Okay.
All right. So then they're a private business, privately held, and they're hoping to get public funds to underwrite their business model. So most business people are not happy with that idea, because business people, in order to be successful, have to figure out how to do it on their own with their own funds, borrow the money, and come up with a plan. You get a bank to work with you to give you the loan, and then you go ahead and execute your plan. But when you can get federal money, whoa.
I mean, like, aren't there like other cases of this, like I-95? I mean, like the entire highway is supposed to be for like governmental use. It's just being allowed to use for the public, but then it's also managed like for like all the tolls and stuff is managed by a private corporation, which we allowed.
Okay, the tolls, those are state. That's the toll roads are owned by the state. They're not part of the.
Okay.
They're not part of the interstate system. Toll roads. Those are two separate conversations.
I'll do a little more research.
Yeah, but anyways, so the upshot is, in my estimation, when the railroad does finally execute the second, you notice if you look at the track work, they've only double tracked at the crossing. There is no connecting track.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Right. But when they collect all that money from the municipalities, that'll give them enough money to continue.
Okay.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then they're still hoping to get some federal funds, which will allow them to lay more track. So that's what this was supposed to be completed by 2016, by the way, this work. So there were a lot of lawsuits, and so and for example, Martin County was suing the developer, and so in order to make that lawsuit go away, they says, well, we might consider putting a train station in Martin County. So they said, okay. So they pulled back,
That's a lot.
And then they, of course, they never interested. I said, no, we can't do it because we won't be able to meet our time schedule requirements. So, so they blew that off. Once the threat of the lawsuit went away, then there was no more issue. So that's kind of a sad situation. But ultimately, what I think is going to happen is when they do get it completed, and they're going to discover within a very short order that you cannot successfully carry people and make money
Hmm.
That's the
And be able to like
that's
supply
the
your
end
own
game.
money.
You're supposed to make money, right?
Hmm.
If you can't do it and do it, reasonably, and still can't make money, they're not going to do it. So, but they're going to own the track.
Okay, so
It
okay,
goes back to the earlier conversation about carrying freight.
so it's just not going to be
It's
used.
all about the freight.
Okay, okay.
It's
So
all about the freight. So, and they also got the a waiver for the length of the train is now allowed to be longer for the freight trains.
okay.
They're allowing that. It went from like 1.5 miles to 2 miles long.
Okay,
And they've also there was some other waivers that they got. The interference, there was part of the deal was you couldn't interfere with a railroad crossing for more than a specific amount of time.
Yes, I was just about to say like that
Right.
just causes more traffic buildup
Right.
and yeah.
So they got a little waiver on that. They can stretch that out. So they got a lot of waivers, and they really have given absolutely nothing in return.
Wow.
So it's
Very
not
successful so far.
not a very good deal. It's going to be a very good for the railroad. There's a Japanese company that actually owns the passenger rail side. They bought because they split the company into 3 different companies.
Oh, okay.
The freight holding company, the we got a caller. Maybe
We're trying.
If I can do it, if I can get it. Come on, button.
And
There it is. Okay. Whew. It's a difficult button. Go ahead, caller. Hey there. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Hey, do you remember, Frank, back when Lawton Childs was in charge, was governor?
Walkin' Lawton.
Yeah, there was a company, a consortium or whatever, companies that was saying that they would build like a monorail in middle ground of I-95, either on the grass or in the busy areas,
Sure.
up on stilts also.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they said that they said that it wouldn't cost anybody anything, but they would charge what they wanted to charge. And it was going to go from Jacksonville to Miami.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was beyond I-95. So I guess if you're a tourist and you want to hit all this stuff, I guess they would have a lot of, back then taxis or whatever. Do you remember when
Well, I remember there was conversation about that. I mean, there's been a lot of different conversations. One of the interesting conversations, going back to the railroad story, is that another outfit, CSX, owns the railroad that goes through the middle of the state. And actually, if you want to get to Orlando expeditiously, you don't want to go along the East Coast because you got too many towns and cities that roll through. You want to go through the center of the state. That's to be the most unimpeded. So CSX says, you know what? If you want to go and build a passenger rail, we'll lease you our track, and you can build your passenger rail along our track and carry people all the way up to Orlando if that's really what you want to do. And you can actually save some time and money because we already have all the property. We have all the right of ways. You don't have to do anything. Just have to lay the track. And FEC said, no, thanks, but no thanks. Why? Because they had their heart set on doing their own gig on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think that's what Lawton Childs was saying. He had no interest in, even if they were going to pay for it. And they would be able to charge, whatever they want, I guess.
I
It
suppose,
has to be
yeah.
affordable, I guess, if you want to get enough people on it.
Well, it has to be affordable, yes.
Hey,
That's
is this
the
thing
problem.
going to run through downtown Stork?
They were talking about having one. There was a location that was already planned out. That'll never happen.
Oh, no, I hope not. They'd have to change it to a Confusion Killer Corner.
No, they actually had a spot just before Confusion Corner along the A1A area. There was a space there that you could very easily put a train station, but they're not going to do it.
Okay, that's all I really had to say. How's everybody been?
Good.
pretty good. How are you?
Everybody's fine. You guys sound good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay,
Buddy.
I'll listen to the rest.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Take care, guys.
All right, take
Yes, sir.
care. Whoops. Okay, and you know what? I just realized we just blew right through our next break, so let's get that out of the way. And we'll be right back. We thank Bob for calling, and we'll be right back. $5.52. But yeah, that's a fascinating story when you really think about the history there. And it's not financially feasible to carry people.
It doesn't sound.
It's a fool's errand. But if they can get government money,
Why not?
and so they'll do it for maybe a year or two, take a loss, capital loss, and they'll say, we can't carry people. So we're going to just switch to our primary mission and carry freight.
So right now, the idea of carrying people's kind of masking their ultimate plan.
Right.
Okay.
It's just a tool for trying to garner cash.
Okay. So right now, they're gonna know.
And we are back. Hello.
Right-o.
Late break, but back into it. We got
Yes.
All right. So, you got any more interesting stories?
Well, that I think we pretty much killed the. I mean, we
Oh, yeah.
discussed the heck out of the train, so probably
Yep.
gave you more information than you ever wanted.
We crawled
But-
deep into that rabbit hole.
We did. There is a new class of exoplanets, half rock, half water. Worlds could habitate life, but that's a new class of exoplanets. So that was discovered just recently. Alien world with strange tilted orbit puzzles astronomers. So there's wild stuff going on out there.
It's funny how we always depict aliens as human-like.
Right. Well, it's easier for the makeup crew.
Yeah, that's true. And for our minds to interpret it.
Right.
But, I mean, who knows?
Who knows indeed. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then what would we classify as an alien? Like
anything off the world. I mean, if you brought here bacteria from
Mhm.
Mars, that would be alien bacteria.
that's true.
It would still be an alien because it's not domestic.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
You go
Oh.
along with that? Judd is giving me the most quizzical look. You were giving me that same look during the train discussion. What can I say? I love it.
All right.
Do you have anything, John?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it. Okay, let's go for this. So we have an entire new thing about it's essentially a 10-year ban for like high leading like tech firms and whatnot. This also goes for like kind of like chip makers in the US for like AI. So essentially we're not like allowing any federal funded tech companies to be based in China. I mean, proximity wise, it would technically benefit them if they want like close access and whatnot to all the materials and whatnot that China has. It's also close by Taiwan, so you get all the chips from there. So by that aspect, it would, but at the same time, you would be leaking leading edge technology, which that's definitely a no-go.
Mhm.
Other things. So
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Okay, so MBDA Missile Systems had admitted that some of his data was stashed among essentially a hacker on the deep web. Was saying, oh yeah, we have this missile data and whatnot. Those ones are linked to like
hacked.
yeah.
Ooh.
So there's stuff like that, and it was linked to like the missile data and whatnot.
Not good
So
stuff.
fun. It's used by now in the United Nations.
Wow.
Always interested in the hacking, John.
Well, it's fascinating.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's becoming more like repeated
Prominent,
as well.
yeah.
I mean, like another one was Holiday Inn.
Repeat
I mean, out of all the
offenders.
places.
Well, they get all the credit card numbers.
Oh, that's true too.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah. All right. We hope to see you here next week, right here on Treasure Coast Forum.